Are you wasting your time and money on inefficiencies in the business? Are sales down and lead conversion rates are low? Are you having problems building or maintaining inventory levels? What does it really take to win in the automotive industry?
Get the cars that make sense for your store rather than just wishing at an auction. So it gives you that better control.
With over 25 years of experience, Daryl the Wolf Steed isn't just another industry voice. He's the guy who's out there solving real problems for dealers just like you.
They'll even say in the Pacific Northwest where you're at that it's a tougher market. It's, it's tougher to find cars. The market's a little bit softer. And in the midst of all this, your turn doubled and your profit's up 75%.
Yes.
The truth hurts only when it should. Are you ready to hear the truths? Daryl is here to unpack the hard truths and the proven strategies that will take your dealership from struggling to soaring. And he is taking it all in the streets, with real talk, open dialogue, unfiltered conversations. This is the podcast series, Street Smarts, powered by SmartWolf Consulting.
What is going on, everybody? We are starting Monday, the week of Thanksgiving. And, I've been talking to people last week at Used Car Week, an absolute great event. Was not what we expected to go there and talk to a lot of dealers. Not as many of them showed up. However, listen, guys, that's what we do. And we had a couple good conversations, and now we're back to Monday. Now, why are we jumping on and getting into it? Well, it's simple, guys. We have 36 days. 36. Not a lot of time till we start 2025. And we have some of those really interesting conversations or decisions to make of what do we do? What do we do with the time that we have left in the year to prepare for 2025? Now, we can certainly do what we normally do, which is wait and say, well, you know what, when we get there, we'll deal with it and just kind of, figure it out from there. And listen, that's what we've always done, right? So it must work. Or does it? I would prescribe too, if that's what you've always done and you've got yourself in a position that you're not happy with, then it obviously doesn't work. And I just heard this quote, and I mean, it couldn't be more pertinent to the automotive industry in today's society, which is if you're not changing something, you're choosing to be in the position you're in. So if you want to complain, or if you want to say, well, times are tough and I'm, we're doing the best we can, or any of these other built-in excuses we've made for ourselves, that's exactly what they are, is excuses. Because you can make a change, you can make an adjustment, you can certainly decide whether or not you want to take on next year differently. And I think when it comes to used cars, we have a real opportunity. I mean, a huge opportunity to take used cars back in control and not have to depend on going after there and being reactive. We have our service drive. We have private party acquisition, which as many people are attempting to do it, very few people are doing it in the right or an effective way. So those who really take control are going to be able to really get ahead next year. And then when we look at our trade-ins, what are we doing? What are we doing with our trades? Are we saying that we want to take in trade-ins? Are we then being reactive to where if we want to make a lot of profit, we try to rip or steal the trade-ins so that we can make up the profit we don't make on the other side? Well, I mean, we got to look at all those things. And, it's I did a podcast while I was at Used Car Week, and when it comes out, it'll be great. It was really interesting conversation, but we use that word transparency. And let's start there, guys. And as you guys jump on, if you have questions, you have thoughts, put them in there. I'm going to bounce around from Facebook to LinkedIn to YouTube and try to gather, or anybody that's engaging in the live conversation. But when we talk about transparency, are you truly transparent? Do you say you're transparent, but then you maybe manipulate the tools so that you use it to your advantage, and then you aren't as transparent as you lead people to believe? These are all different types of things that happen And we have to ask ourselves, like, what are we doing to build our customer base? What are we doing to ensure that we make sure that we grow our business? Because we're not going to be in this position forever. We're not going to be in this position once things matriculate back to where they were when it comes to leasing and inventory. But it is something that we have to deal with for right now. So how are we making sure that we grow the business to where in a year's time or 2 years' time that you have that be-back business coming to you? Now, we could use the adage of what just happened. So we had a global pandemic. And with the global pandemic, we didn't take that approach. We didn't think about building our customer base. We said, you know what, look, we're going to make as much money as possible, or the better part of the automotive industry did. And aren't we dealing with the recourse of what that is now? Aren't we dealing with how we made sure that we were taken care of, but we didn't think about business 3 years from now or 2 years after that area? And now we're dealing with compression, and we're dealing with slowing profits and used car sales being erratic. And then just the overall salesmanship or the quality of salespeople being subpar at best. And so let's do something different. Let's transform. Let's evolve. Again, I always joke to not use the word change, because when we say the word change, it's like scary. Like we're going to do something that, oh my Lord, like what could possibly happen? But we change all the time. We just don't want to really, admit that, because maybe it's a fear of saying that we were failing, or a fear of saying that we were doing it wrong. I think it's just a healthy observation of saying that times are passing us by, or we need to do something that's more effective. I would say that's what the smartest people do in the business, is embrace change every day, or transforming, evolve to something that's more effective. Now, when we talk about used car operations, this is a one-of-one type of situation where you have the opportunity of not only being one of the cars that you guys are acquiring to sell, but you have the opportunity to be one of one in the experience that you provide for the customer, because you have something that is unique, and you have the ability to show why you're the reason why they want to continue to do business. Now, if any of you guys caught the live podcast I did at Used Car Week, I had a absolutely magical guest on with Sky. And she told a story, which I think is just relevant anytime we're talking about customer service, is that her parents bought a car at a particular dealership, and they had such great service. That's just where they would always be. Well, then she ends up working there. And then the person that they bought the car from is the person's job after he'd been there for 30 years that she eventually took after being his assistant. Now, why is that important? Well, connection's important, guys. Connection's a big thing. And so when we talk about that transparency and we talk about customer service, you have that real ability of showing why you stand out from the everyday stigma of the auto dealership environment. And when it comes to acquisition, I think there's no better opportunity to not only separate the business set from acquisition to sales, but to then show a different way, a more effective way, a more connective way with customers, to engage with them, to dispel the negative rumors or negative connotations of the automobile industry. Because you can really cater to the customer's needs, being that there's nothing they want when you're buying their car other than money, time, or convenience. And so you can really take a step forward and say, hey, I'm going to do this differently, because I'm going to really make sure that I treat the customer with the utmost respect and then serve their needs. Now, just think about that for a minute, right? What if, just a hypothetical, we started serving the customer's needs and we didn't worry about serving our own? Would we be more successful? Would we be less successful? That is the question. Now, I would prescribe to that we're going to be more successful. And the reason why is I've built buying centers and everything else. You'll hear the song I'm about to play, but this is the attitude that I have when I'm talking to those people. Is right here. All you do is win, right? And if you have that mentality of all you're going to do is win, and you do it a different way, how do you lose? And I say that because if I'm treating customers with the utmost respect and showing them how much I want their business, let's say I don't buy their car. We can't make the deal at that present moment. I would love anyone to get on here, hit me up in the comments, and we can chop it up about it. how do you lose? Right? It's about winning, and it's about winning in more than just the end result of buying a car or selling a car. Does that customer feel empowered? Does that customer feel like you helped them move forward in the process? So when we talk about that, guys, it's holiday week. A lot of people are traveling. A lot of people have Thanksgiving coming, going to see families. What are we doing with the next 36 days? Are we just hoping to close out the month and have a good end of the month and then on to December and then managing December into the next year and then we'll figure it out in January? Or are we looking to make a real impact so that we can focus on next year? So that we can focus on next year and hit the ground running. Now, I would challenge everybody out there, okay, whether you're watching this live, you get a chance to watch it later, is think about what we could do with used cars if we took a slightly different approach and we use the next 36 days to start building a new foundation, a transformed foundation, a new approach, or approach you already have, but we really dial it in and get our people trained to feel confident into having conversations and building that experience to where January comes and we're not figuring anything out. We're hitting the ground running to make a great January, great February, right into tax time and creating a boost. So not just tax time giving a boost, but our own strategies giving us an additional boost to really kind of take it by the horns. Now, what would that look like for next year if your first quarter outperformed previous year's expectations? Because isn't that how we base our whole year? If first quarter isn't great, like then we're always running after it and trying to make it up in the spring and then trying to do all we can in the summer. And then we're right back on that same hamster wheel because again, that's how we've always done it. And as you've heard many industry leaders say is, if that's how we've always done it, why do the average sales for a salesperson stay the same? Why does the average inventory aged and everything else pretty much fluctuate in the same area? Well, we have to start asking ourselves, guys, if this is how we've always done it, okay, then are we all batshit crazy or insane? Because that is the definition, is it not? Is to do the same exact thing and expect different results? Well, we have to ask ourselves that, guys. And, and I'm here to ask it because in all fairness, I'm not worried, okay, about the conversations of like, well, Daryl doesn't know, or well, we'll be fine. You probably all will. I don't think the car business is drying up tomorrow. The difference is that, are you happy? Are you satisfied? Or are you just content and kind of mediocre and just as it is? So, when it comes to that used car acquisition, as you guys can see in the background behind me, Street Smarts, it is the way to obviously have a couple different options for you for used cars. Now, I get on here because I really wanted to talk about and see if anyone jumps on and puts on comments of what is everyone planning on doing, safe travels, engagement, what does everyone's next 30 days look like so that they can really take the market by storm in January, or are we just going to sit around and wait and hope it happens? Now, with Street Smarts, you have an academy now. It's the only thing out there in the industry. This is a web-based academy with video integration, lesson plans, role plays, giving you that basic fundamental and foundation. We also created a genius group, which supports the academy so that you get the deeper understanding, the psychology base behind customer engagement, and then actually practical things that you can use in your store real time. But it's also a standalone thing to where if you're like, hey, I just want to be part of the genius group because I have kind of an operation, but I always look for those different insights and intrigues, or I need additional insights and intrigues to better myself. And we really created that because of a lot of the philosophies of like law of the lid and, and increasing your own mind, being a linchpin, things of that nature is, if you're not bettering yourself, if you're not continually educating yourself and finding people that either do what you do better, more effective, or in a different way that are having success, because that's another way to learn different strategies, then how do you expect to get your people to where they want to be? And then we have SmartWolf Consulting, that is the ground floor. That is where it all started, which is the partnership between me and stores, going in there and building it and guaranteeing that long-term success, which is what I've done now for the last 14 years. Now, why is that important to people is when we think about that is, let's think about what this is the way we've always done it. And then the education in the automotive industry, education and training Forget about used cars, forget about profit, forget about all the things that, people want to hit hot buttons on. So let's remove the 3 hot buttons of today's automotive industry. Let's remove the word AI, let's remove the word EV, and let's remove the word buying centers. These things seem to be the catchphrases for everybody to like either engage in a conversation, start a conversation, or sound like they know what they're talking about these things. Well, AI has been around for machine learning AI 25 plus years, maybe more. And there are new A's coming out, but it's a lot of repackaging of old stuff that we just never used in the automotive industry. EVs have been around for quite a long time, and there's some people that have got it, some people that haven't, but that market always changes. And buying centers, well, buying centers is a collective term that can mean a lot of different things. It's your acquisition strategy. But let's talk about the real foundation of this. It's training and development of our people. It's training and development of the people that have been in the business for a long time that have not increased their education or continued with their education. 1, how to communicate with the younger generation. 2, how to communicate with customers that are no longer looking to engage in disruptive or argumentative practices. Ask yourself that question. Have you ever seen a customer now when you show them a number and the traditional way of doing things or the old school way of doing things is that you would show them numbers. It would then inflate the irritation or emotional response of the customer, and you put them on the ceiling and have to bring them down because you're hoping that they're not educated and that you would be able to make more money on that particular situation. And no, not everybody does this, but yes, a lot of people still do this exact practice. Well, think about that. Is how come we haven't continued our education? How come we haven't shown people a different or unique way or transform our approach to this? Well, what you see customers doing now is just saying, okay, thank you. They're going to think about it, and they disengage. There's actually been quite a few studies to show they'll disengage and then they'll go shop somewhere else because it's not that they don't want that deal. They just don't want to have to argue and go back and forth. They're removing themselves from the situation of what the automobile industry has essentially shown it to be, which is everything you see in the news and in the movies, which is deceptive and boiler room type of negotiations and things of that nature. So when you think about that, is like, how do you ensure that that's not something that they think anymore? It's education and training. Now, for the stores that are doing it really well, listen, take a bow and accept your flowers. Because if training is as important to you as selling cars, you're on the right track. Hell, you're beating the algorithm 10 times over. But for other stores is it because we don't know how to train? Is it because ourselves, like the people in the store, never took the time to either get certifications, continue education, or they don't feel comfortable being that type of instructor? Is it because we always say that we don't have time because we don't feel comfortable because we don't want to do it or take on extra tasks? There's lots of different reasons. But at the end of the day there's a solution, right? I have solutions for you for training. There's other people that have solutions for trainings. If we educate our staff and we educate the consumer experience and we educate people how to have conversations with the people coming up, for instance, like Gen Z or Gen A, then don't we put ourselves in a better position for the business to come? Or are we holding on to that hope principle, which hope, guys, is just a wish without a plan? And holding on to that hope plan that is that, well, this is how we've always done it, and this is what we're going to do. And well, guys, we already know how that happens. We already know what works. We already don't know that what doesn't work, right? And when we take that course of action, we get the same results we're getting, which if you guys are watching this, you guys can put some comments. You guys can send me a text. You guys can engage any way you guys want, but are you really happy? For the most part, like, are you satisfied? Do you think you could be doing better? Maybe that's the question we ask. Do you think that your store or your team could be doing better than they are right now? If the answer is yes, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Street Smarts, the Academy, the Genius Group, SmartWolf Consulting. There's a viable opportunity right there to take control and get results next year in used cars. You don't believe me? Talk to the references, look at the posts. This is something that has been breaking through for 14 years. And when we think about that, 14 years of building buying centers and dealing with used car operations and training when I was with KBBICO and things of that nature, That's how long it's taken for buying centers to become a flash word or a hot word in the automotive industry. Is now it's like, oh, we've got a buying center. Oh, we're doing that. And it really started getting really intense when COVID happened. So call it 12 years or 13 years before it was really intense. But these things were going on for quite some time. Now, because everyone did it and no one really got the education in it, and it was kind of like a slapstick operation because you really couldn't miss in COVID, you still have the opportunity, if you did this right, to not only dominate your market, but quiet the competition, because it is hard, very hard to stay up with competition if you're kind of doing anything. Or let's use the societal word of trying. I don't believe in the word try. I believe the word try is a false narrative to basically let ourselves down if we fail. And if you think about it and someone says, try a new food, I dare you to go ahead and do that. Go ahead and give it a whirl and try it. It's impossible. Try is a thought process and it cannot be an action. Because the moment you put the food in your mouth and you chew it, you've done it. That's why Yoda said there is no try, there's do and do not, because the moment you do it, it's done. So when we talk about trying, it's because we want to think about doing something, but we don't really want to put in all the effort. So when we do it, we half-ass it. We kind of do something. Well, the people that are successful, they go all in. And the reason they go all in is they go all in to fail, in the sense of having failures, is to succeed, because you're not going to succeed the first time. You might have little failures. We're not talking about epic ones, but we're talking about little failures. And by doing that, we put ourselves in a position to get better and better and better, because then we dive right in again and we dive right in again and we keep doing it. We don't keep trying it. We keep doing it. So think about that. What are we waiting for? We can seize the opportunity right now. We have 36 days. So whether you guys are looking at used car acquisition, you say, look, man, we need to do something. Okay, give me a call. Let's talk about it. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to help anyone that's ready to change next year. If you're saying 2025 needs to be my best year, send me a message. You can text me, okay, 916-588-6263. You can call me. Okay, you can hit me up on any of the social media platforms. You can go to any of my websites, which is autostreetsmarts.com or smartwolfconsulting.com. Send me a message. But if you're ready to do it, so am I. Let's jump all the way in. But if it's something else, you're like, hey, we want to do something else. What are you doing to ensure, one, your staff knows about it, they're jacked up, they're ready to go? And what are you doing to ensure that they are educated, they're confident, that you're getting them the training they're going to need? Not the training you think they need, the training that they actually need. See, you can never really overtrain someone, because the more education you get someone, that's where ideas happen. That's where ingenuity happens. That's where that electric spark happens. And then all of a sudden, your people start to think for themselves. Now, I know that's a scary proposition for some people, because they're like, I don't really want them to think for themselves. And you want to kind of hold that down. But when you think about it, let's use something, and where I have experience in is the military. When we went into the military, okay, and I was in there, we would train, everyone got trained to relieve that person at their position. So if you were in a position, you didn't gatekeep it. You didn't tell them like, oh, sorry, you trained everybody so that you were anticipating eventually that they were going to take your job. Why? Because you weren't going to be there forever, or you might get deployed, or listen, worst case scenario, things might happen if you're in front lines and you need to train someone in case you didn't make it. Now, that's the most radical version of that. But when you think about it, why are we so hard to gatekeep and not show people different things? Now, I can tell you in my experience, I always train people to replace me. And if you saw one of my podcasts, I specifically talk about that, because if we train people and they're replacing me, two things have happened. Okay, one, I didn't do my job very well at all, and they're taking my job. Well, if that's the case, okay, I'm glad that I trained them good enough to take my job. But two is, why didn't I do my job? Two, okay, if I train them and they're taking my job, more likely than not, it's because I'm moving up to the next job and I'm getting promoted, or I'm moving on to, get to the next position and wherever I'm at. So when you ask yourself that, you have to ask yourself, okay, what are we actually doing? Or why are we not training people to do that? What are we so afraid of? Is it extra work? Is it, the old adage, which, I know that happens, is, well, I don't get paid to do that. Is it something even, more affluent to what we see in the business is that's not my job? Well, I always loved the military for that because everything's your job. Everything's your job in order to ensure that things work. But more importantly is you have to be responsible to do your job. Someone has to count on that person and they have to do it. So the more people that can do those jobs, the more times, that you didn't have to worry about these things. So we ask yourself, with 36 days, what are you doing? Who are you training? What's your goal for next year? Are we sitting around and waiting? Or are we ready to make a difference? So I thought about, it's Monday evening. Football's about to kick off. Okay, we got the Chargers and the Ravens for those of you guys who watch NFL. We also have the Kings and the Thunder on NBA. Okay, and these are all great things to watch when it comes to sports and kind of kill the time. But when you think about it, is you have Monday, right? You have a little bit left today. Then you have tomorrow, and then you have Wednesday. Then we're all going to take a day off, okay? And we have Thanksgiving, okay? We're all going to gain our, our holiday 3 to 5 pounds, right? Because we're going to eat turkey, stuffing, all the good stuff, okay? And then we're going to come back on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then boom. We're right back. And now we're into December. Is what are we going to do in the next couple days? And then what do we do with December? If I told you had 31 days and you could create an absolute dynamic plan to have success in used cars, acquisition, or sales strategy, okay, what are you doing with each one of those days to ensure that you have it ready to go? Think about that. It's a powerful statement. It's a powerful thought. And why is it powerful? Well, it really comes down to a lot of things. We control our own destiny. We control what we want to happen. If we're not changing something, then we are choosing to stay in the situation we're in right now. So let's think about that phrase for a minute, because I'd really like to unpack it for just a second. If we're not changing something, we choose the position we're in. So if you're the type of person that's out there complaining, bitching, moaning, or making excuses, and you don't come up with a plan, or you're not changing something in the next 30 days to empower yourself for the next year, be quiet. No one wants to hear it. You're choosing to be in that position. But then if you want to complain about it because you want attention, no one's going to give it to you. Right? So when I say we have that power, we have that ability to really engage and interact, we do. Right? And change is hard. Guys, just so we're clear, change is ridiculously hard. Anyone that says, oh, change is easy, it's not. It is hard. But the best thing about change is when you're changing something, or you've made a choice and you want to improve or evolve or transform, failure is near impossible because you don't know what you don't know. So you're guiding yourself through the next step of where you're going. Now, you may have missteps. You might have small failures, but that's okay. That's how we get better, is making, and I would hate to use the word failure in those things. That we'll say they're mistakes. They're trip ups. And before you fall flat on your face, you go, whoa, we're going to pivot and we're going to go into something else, or we're going to twist things just a little bit and we're going to realign ourselves to move forward towards the better way. And so I really thought it'd be great to come on here and kind of give everyone that challenge of, with 36 days left, what does that look like? Okay. And how do we ensure that we have a better 2025 than we do a 2024? Well, I would say to ensure that's going to happen, you're going to have to do a lot of things in 2025. But it's definitely going to be how we start it. If we start it strong, we put ourselves in the best position. Not to say it's not how you finish. You got to finish strong too. But, when people say it's not how you start, it's how you finish, those are the people that don't start very well. The ones that are consistent all the way, they start strong, they're in the middle strong, and they're at the end strong. And that's how you ensure success. That's how you ensure that you've transformed, you've got to where you want to be. So with 36 days left, think about that as a challenge. Now, I'd ask anybody who's watching this, you're on social media. So if you're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, please repost this, share this, right? And if it comes to used cars, guys, I am so excited. I am so pumped about the Street Smarts Academy, because for at least 8 to 10 years, I've been hearing that Well, there's no one out there that really understands it. There's one or two people that understand it. The special, like bringing people in like that's expensive, which is true, right? Because when someone's very good at something, you've got to pay them to bring that in. But now we've created this affordable option that people can get the foundation. We've created a support option so that they can get that. And so we've kind of taken those excuses away to where used cars is literally your embracement of how much do you want to invest into your people, in the sense of, do you want to get something that can train your people and then get a support element for your people to where you reinvest in your people to put them in a position to where they grow your company, not to mention that your people feel empowered because you're investing in them, that you're showing them how much they're worth to you. See, it's not always about pay plans, right? Sometimes in pay plans, that people are like, oh, it's what I get paid. Have you ever heard anybody say like, yeah, my company or this sends me to this, they get me trained on this, they got me this certification? They're jacked because they know that company values them, because they're empowering them to put them in the right position. So as we wrap up this live podcast on Street Smarts powered by SmartWolf, that's the challenge, guys, right? We've covered a couple of things, right? But let's wrap them all together, right? Let's be transparent. And transparent is everything in customer service to everything in life. Don't kind of be transparent. You are or you aren't. So when it comes to tools, don't manipulate the tool. Use it as it is intended. And don't be afraid to have the conversation with the customer. If you're transparent in your plan, you should have a plan. It should be written down just like a process. And then follow that plan. Don't talk about the plan. Anyone can tell you what they want to do, think they can do, or possibly might do. Okay, write it down, follow it every day, execute something on it every single day. Okay, we talked about making that choice. If you're not changing something, you're choosing something. So if you're choosing it, then own it. When people say, hey, what are you doing? Nothing. We're going to stick with our course and this is what we're going to do. And don't sit there and look for the sympathy or pity, right, from other people saying like, well, times are tough. They're only tough because you're allowing them to be. So one of my colleagues, okay, Mr. David Long, he always says we make our own economy. I cannot tell you how many times, every time he says it, I 100% agree with that statement. I 100% agree with it, because anyone that's not making their own economy is choosing not to make their own economy and looking for sympathy or pity by complaining or bitching about the surroundings. Okay, there's all kinds of things that change every single day, every single week, right? So change it or choose it, but pick a lane and don't sit on the fence. Okay, and last is you have 36 days. When we think about that, just over a month, man, that seems like a long time. But then at the same time, it thinks like that could be over tomorrow. So what are we going to do to ensure 2025 is the year? 2025, right? We're 25 years into the 2000s. That's crazy, right? Just the other day, it seems like the world was coming to end in 1999. Okay, the Y2K was going to get us all, and we're 25 years past that, right? So we have 36 days, right? If it comes to used car operations, which is what I deal with, I'm passionate about it. I'm very good at what I do, and I give 100% every single time to ensure success for my clients. If that's what you're looking to do, let's get on a phone, let's get on email, let's get on a text thread, let's get on a Zoom. Hell, you want to talk about your store and what you're doing well? Come on my podcast. I love having people telling us what they're doing well, learning from them, and seeing unique ways to obviously how to transition stuff. But don't take these 36 days and say, well, we'll just figure it out when we get there. Right? We really need to take this 36 days and really embrace it, right? And when you think about it, right, it's kind of one of those things where you have the ability, right, to do something different, right? You have the ability to take control. You have the ability to take it to the streets, right, and bring that money back into your store. And I'll leave you guys with this. Some of the smartest dealers and dealer groups in the country subscribe to being proactive and embracing new ways to transform and evolve for everybody else. You have to ask yourself, are you one of the smart ones? Or are you one of the ones waiting? This is Street Smarts, Monday night. Enjoy the night, safe travels, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there.